The Aurora dialogues are all about modern-day saviors, about, well, heroes of humanity, if you like, and certainly there are no shortages of them throughout the next 2 days. In fact, 3 of them. It's my great pleasure and delight and honor to introduce to you now and share the stage with me to engage in a little dialogue with you here in the audience as well. She is a founder and executive director of the NOR Educational and Capacity Development Organization, an internationally renowned activist for women's rights and education in Afghanistan. She has received many international awards and was named the 2017 Aurora Prize finalist. Lovely to have you here, ladies and gentlemen. Jamila Afghani. Lovely to have you here, Jamila.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Berlin, and please have a seat. And lovely also to welcome here the founder and president of what was then the Maison Shalom Burundi, which he founded in 1993, of course, during interethnic war as a refuge for orphaned child soldiers and so forth. Now, she herself has now moved her operation to Rwanda, to Kigali, still very much engaged, though, in helping refugees. And of course, and rightfully so, she has received many international prizes for her work, including being a 2016 Aurora Prize laureate. Ladies and gentlemen, delightful to welcome you here in Berlin, Marguerite Barankitze. Well, the next person, I would argue, needs no introduction here. As a matter of fact, if I would just list his accomplishments, we'd be here until tomorrow. But suffice to say that he is the 12th president of the Carnegie Corporation of New York, of course a co-founder of the Aurora Humanitarian Initiative, and following a very distinguished and successful academic career spanning 2 decades. He first served as a president of the New York Public Library, then as president of Brown University, overseeing one of the most successful episodes of that university. In 2004, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and in 2009, no other than President Barack Obama appointed him to serve on the President's Commission on White House Fellowships. He's also a selection committee member for the Aurora Prize. Honored to have you here, Vartan Gregorian. Welcome, sir. Please have a seat. Welcome in Berlin. Now, you are seeing 3 heroes of humanity, modern-day saviors, if you will. As a matter of fact, we were supposed to be 4 panelists, 5 including myself. Unfortunately, one of them couldn't make it. The physician at the Mother of Mercy Catholic Hospital in the Nuba Mountains in South Sudan, Dr. Tom Katena, as a matter of fact. He can't be here because he is on call. In fact, he's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the hospital to care for the citizens of Nuba. And despite several bombings by the Sudanese government, Dr. Katena resides and insists on residing on hospital grounds so that he may be on call at all times. But as a 2000 laureate of Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity, he still did not want to pass up the opportunity to address this distinguished audience and was therefore kind enough to send us a short video message. Let's play it.
Hello, my name is Dr. Tom Katina, and I'm talking to you from the Mother of Mercy Hospital in the Nuba Mountains of Sudan on this wonderful occasion of the Aurora Dialogues to discuss immigration, migration, and integration. I first off would like to say thank you to the Aurora Committee for allowing me this chance to address you today. I believe that we in the developed world, and those of us from resource-rich settings, have the moral obligation to take care of our less fortunate brothers and sisters in the world, in this case mostly from Syria, Iraq, and other places in the Middle East. This form of assistance can take place most tangibly in the form of a proper vetting procedure followed by integration into host communities, given opportunities for jobs and school and other things. Other ways to help these people would be offering money and support to countries such as Turkey and Jordan, which are shouldering the burden of caring for them with the eventual goal to repatriate these people back to their native country. However, having said all this, I think it's imperative that we include the thoughts and opinions of the host nations, that we address their fears, that we understand what they mean when they say they fear for their loss of identity and their loss of culture. I think their fears need to be calmed, and I think they can eventually come over to the side that integration is really the way to go, that this in the long run will be helpful to them in their countries. I wish you a very fruitful dialogue, and we are praying that all things will turn out for the best for these people. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
The words from Dr. Tom Catena, who obviously would have liked to be here with us, but did not want to leave his patients behind in South Sudan. More than understandable, but thank you to him, of course, for still sharing some words here with tonight's audience. Jamila, now, we're talking, the next 2 days will be all about migration, about refugees, a topic that you know all too well, of course, having been a refugee yourself at the tender age of 11. For those of you, for those in the audience who might not be familiar with your biography and your personal story, could you share with us how did you become a refugee and how did that experience shape you, also motivating you to do the work that you do today?
As you said, I was only 10 or 11 years old when my father decided to cross the border where other family members were already there. I was very sad with this decision of my father, but I had no choice. And of course, I faced many difficulties while crossing the border. One of the major problems that I faced while crossing border, the Russian soldier opened fire on us, and my uncle was killed, and I was shot on the head. And still I remember the echo of bullets in my dreams throughout my life. Even last night I had it here also. But when we crossed the border with difficulty, in Pakistan we had better opportunities of education. I got my education there. I completed my 2 master classes. And in one of the camp, 36 women and children died due to hunger and heat in the refugee camp. That was the time I started my organization with a group of other sisters that we had in a way or other way difficulty or disability. And that was the way that I started my social work because personally I went through that and I was nurtured in that environment that I could understand the problem other refugees, other my fellow Afghans were facing in the refugee camp.
So at age 11, you were forced to flee Afghanistan, move into Pakistan, where you stayed for 18 years, and then move back to Afghanistan to launch your organization. Clearly an experience that has shaped you and motivated you to do the work that you do. We'll hear more about that, including your current situation, of course. But now Jamila started or became a refugee at a very young age. Maggie, with you it was a bit the opposite, no? I mean, you lived in Burundi where you started the Maison Shalom, but only in recent years were you forced to flee Burundi into Rwanda. If you could share with us how that came about.
I must thanks to German people because perhaps in 1993 when they killed my family because I lost 60% of my family and I refused to leave my village. But I was obliged also to leave my village finally because they came and they want to kill me because I adopt 4 Hutu children and 3 Tutsi children. And then the militaries came and said to me that I must leave my country. And it's a German cooperer who hid me during 7 months because I refused to leave my country because he asked me, now you are in a dangerous situation. They killed 72 people in front of me, and I took 25 children. For this moment, I was thinking, no, I can't leave my hometown. I will help the others. But you see, I continue to think that it's possible to stay in the country. I move from town, from street, from sometimes in other houses. And in 2015, then the president, who had himself give me a diplomatic passport and call me national mothers, decide to kill me because I denounce the crimes. He began to kill children, and then it was not possible to stay. They came in a Belgian embassy where I was hidden for 1 month, and they said, we will destroy this embassy if you don't give Maggie. And then I went. In my heart, I can't understand to leave 30,000 children that I had saved. And I went in Luxembourg, not in Rwanda, because it was not possible that I can go in Rwanda. Then when I arrived in Luxembourg, they welcomed me, but I said no. I returned among refugees, brothers and sisters, Burundian, and then I decided to open again Maison Shalom in Rwanda in order to help other refugees like me. But I have no money because they froze all the accounts. They took everything from Maison Shalom Burundi. But nobody can stop the love. They can't stop me.
Despite the grave situation, the threats that you have endured and faced, you held out for as long as you could have, and then moved across the border to Rwanda, where you live now, and still continue, of course, to do the good work that you do. We'll talk more about the Oasis of Peace Community Center in just a moment. But Vartan, when you see the news about refugees these days on television on a daily basis, not just in Syria, but Afghanistan, in Africa, also based on your personal biography, that must hit home, no?
Well,
let's have the microphone. Okay. Should be on.
I'm a historian, and as a result, I know what happened during World War I. We excused that this happened, an aberration in Western civilization. Terrible thing happened, but this will not happen again because we learn lessons. Then I saw World War II come, almost repetition, but with better arms. And I said, this will be the final act of inhumanity of man to man. But then I had never anticipated that in 21st century, age of science, age of technology, age of prosperity, globalism, et cetera, that we will face dislocation and expulsion or a movement of some 65 million people, largest movement of migrants in history. And then I did not imagine also that we have used more bombs in the past 20, 30 years than the entire World War II. This is terrible. So refugees are not category. I like to call human beings. When you say refugee, we dehumanize them. When we say dislocated person, dislodged people, we dehumanize them. These are human beings trying to survive. They're not animals. They're human beings with aspirations, with goals, dreams, relatives, love, separation. All of us who have read novels, we know. So that's one of the things that inspired me to join this effort, because as I said upstairs during a press conference, I'm impressed by two things. One is Maggie here, and Dr. Catena there, and Jamila here, and many others who are here. Impressed by the fact, and I mentioned two authors. One of them I mentioned, one of them I'll tell you. Brecht's Galileo impressed and depressed me for one line. He said, "Cursed be the land that needs heroes." Because he thought the moment we seek heroes, because we abandoned decency, we abandoned our humanity, we need role models to emerge, remind us that, and that he thought was aberration. We don't need heroes to remind us how to be decent. The other thing that Bosch Foundation, Carnegie Corporation of New York, and other foundations involved is Saint-Exupéry's Vol de Nuit, the author of Little Prince, Saint-Exupéry, during World War II. When he was flying, he saw many flickering lights down below. And he said, wouldn't it be nice if these flickering lights become searchlights so we can see better? And I find our dilemma is twofold. One is to take care of human beings, fellow human beings, which are, as you saw, as was said, dispersed in countries which have problems. Ethiopia would accept almost 1 million people. Uganda will accept 1 million people. Incredible. And then in Europe and others, people complaining that we're complying with international covenants and others to share our role in humanity. So those are things that have forced me, compelled me to consider Maggie and Catena and those heroes, but we also need decency, our own humanity. When the instinct of pity, sympathy towards our fellow men and women cease, then we're diminished. We cannot talk about dignity of men, because we become, in many ways, prisoners of present. We're not looking backwards, and we're not looking forward. We're just dealing now. And that's what theologians, philosophers, more than ever need. And of course, the churches, mosques, and synagogues, more than ever have to reaffirm and reconfirm and be witness. Now, many countries, including our country, United States, has benefited from refugee crisis. As a matter of fact, I was a member for 23 years, Institute for Advanced Study, which was formed in 1930. And guess who came there? Von Neumann, Einstein, and so forth. Entire German and other elites went there. And out of there, computer revolution came. Quantum theory came. 40,000 businesses were started as a result of that one institution bringing about all of these scientists and others. So many beneficiaries are there, but I'm talking about ordinary people who are not Einsteins, von Neumanns, and so forth, because they also are human beings. And that's why it compels me as a moral act to join not only Carnegie Corporation, but also this Aurora, and now with our partners, Bosch Foundation, because I was telling Christopher Bosch that his forefather was considered one of geniuses, because he thought to solve problems of nutrition, food, and so forth as a major crisis, not as a Malthusian, but as a humanitarian. And we're facing similar challenges now. So that's what brings me here.
And it's lovely to have you here. Please, by all means. It's Strong, powerful words. And of course, the Aurora Prize and the Aurora Dialogues want to raise awareness and shed light on heroes of humanity such as Maggie and Jamila. And Jamila, if we talk about your current situation right now, we already established that you were a refugee, came back to Afghanistan to establish your organization, but you have encountered some difficulties recently and had to leave Afghanistan, no?
Yeah, of course. Currently, I'm living in Turkey due to some difficulty I had inside the country, and also I have some health issues. Unfortunately, with all the struggle we are doing, not only we inside Afghanistan, but all international community supporting us, but still the situation is getting worse instead of improvement. And lots of people are migrating, leaving Afghanistan to different countries. And Afghanistan is now second largest country of the world that has larger number of migration. But I hope that I will not go for asylum. I don't have the courage to leave my identity back. But I'm looking for some other alternatives to safeguard for some time and continue my work from distance to my country, to my people. And I hope I can go back in near future.
Yeah, we all hope so, of course. And because the absence of individuals like yourself in Afghanistan is, of course, a huge loss to the civil society over there. But we perfectly understand, of course, that for the time being, Turkey in this particular case might be a safer option. Now, Maggie, for you as well, you are now operating out of Kigali. I already mentioned the Oasis of Peace Community Center, which you are running thanks to Aurora and their support. Tell us a little bit about that.
I like what you have said, you, Vartan, that refugees are normal people. Refugees don't need pity. Refugees, what they need is dignity, because we can also improve our lives. And I want, solennellement, how to say it, to thanks to Aurora Prize. When you give me this award, I was thinking how I can change this refugee camp in a city. Because if you see the big refugee camp where there were 60,000 people, and among those refugees, they were 75% were young people between 16 to 29. And I dream when you give me the award, you have seen that I began to sing. And because I was thinking what I can do with these young refugees, it was education. Then since last year, I opened a community center, like a family, where we train young people for computer, for English training, and we have more than 337 young people who return in universities, and we began to take the women. We give microcredit. Now they must not beg. They can send themselves, their children back to school, and it changed completely thanks to this Aurora Prize and my life also, because when I was among those refugees and I see the suffering, those young people who can't return at school, it was very dangerous. What we forget if those young people don't return in university, what they will do? They will take weapon, and they will go back because Rwanda and Burundi is near. It's only 1 hour to return there. Then they can take weapon and go to revenge. Today, they celebrate, they can go to universities, the mom can feed their children. Of course, there are so many challenges, but it's only seeds. And if everybody can put this seed, we will change the world. Thank you.
Very poignant and true, of course. Education, the key here for giving the young people the hope for a dignified future. Now, Vartan, when you hear these stories about the good work that Aurora is doing, of the actual effect it is having on the ground, that must be very rewarding, no?
Not only rewarding, but Margaret now has his own stamp. Armenian government issued stamp in her picture, in her name, and so forth. One of few ordinary citizens in history has a stamp after him. So I was so thrilled about that, because now stamps communicate too. Stamp collectors, I'm sure, have a unique collection of your thing. But I'm very proud. I'm also proud of another thing, because we don't have time to go into it. I belong to American Academy of Berlin board. Anna Marie Keller and Stephen Keller, Germans, who left Germany and came back afterwards, and they donated their home to be a center to connect America and Germany. And I'm very proud of what's going on there also, in a sense, because they wanted to redeem the reputation of Berlin. So every year they paid the entire Berlin Orchestra to come to New York to perform at Carnegie Hall in order to celebrate what Germany was, Germany is now, so that people will see that there is always redemption, always self-invention, always rebirth, but not static. And we're trying to give the same thing to individuals, people, to give rebirth to themselves. Another favorite quote of mine, forgive me, tonight I'm literary mode, is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. In The Love in the Time of Cholera, he says, people are not born once and for all when their mother gives birth to them. Throughout their life, they give rebirth to themselves many times. And here is two of them here, many in the audience, who have given rebirth to themselves, reinvent themselves. So do nations in many ways, if they have great leadership, great cultural tradition, great faith, and enlightenment, always have reinvented. Look at Germany now, how it became from ashes, reemerged as a major power in the world now. It was not just about material, but it was a cultural and other values that propelled a nation to be asserting itself by reinventing itself and reconnecting with the past. And that's one of the things, as a historian, I'm very proud.
Yeah. And rightfully so. And there aren't too many people who have their portrait on a stamp. I can tell you that, Maggie. So that's quite an accomplishment. And the emphasis you put on education, of course, is key, not just in general, but also for the next 2 days, considering that the Aurora Dialogue Berlin 2017 is, of course, also supported by the United World Colleges, and it's wonderful that we have some students here from those colleges. They're actually sitting right here in the first row. Wonderful to welcome you. Please give him a hand, give him a warm welcome. Now, if I can have the microphone here for a second, for instance, we have Osasu with us. Osasu Osayande. Why don't you get up, Osasu, so that everybody can see you, a second-year student from Nigeria. Now, you are originally from Nigeria. You came as a refugee together with your parents and your brother, and you have settled near Freiburg, as I understand, and studying now at United World Colleges. For those who don't know you, are not familiar with the story, perhaps you can share with us how was this journey, getting from Nigeria all the way to Freiburg?
Hello, my name is Sasasio Osayende, as he said before. I'm from Nigeria originally, and I moved to Germany 3 years ago with my mum and my brother. And we have been living in Freiburg for 3 years now. And when I got to Freiburg, we originally left Nigeria in search of my father, and because of the economical situation back then, civil wars between Christians and Muslims. So we couldn't live there anymore, so we had to leave. And when we got here, we've been here for, we got here and we landed in Munich, then we got moved to Freiburg, where I got put in an introductory German class to study the German language for about 6 months. Then I went into gymnasium, where I stayed for a year before getting into the United World College, the Robert Bosch College in Freiburg. And
that's very impressive. After 6 months, your German was good enough to attend gymnasium.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I have friends who've been born and raised here, still don't speak it. But wonderful, not properly anyway. Wonderful. Osasu Osayende is, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, and obviously good luck with your future endeavors at the United World Colleges. We have also with us Amr Al-Jabbar. Please give him a hand. Amr, it's wonderful to have you. You are a second-year student at the university, and originally, come again? That's okay. And you're a second-year student. Now, you are originally from Syria, though. You joined your brother, as I understand, who was also a refugee back then in Berlin, no?
Yeah. So basically, I left Syria on 2013, like 4 years ago. And I lived 2 years in Jordan with my whole family. Then, after 2 of my brothers left to Europe, my parents decided that I should come to Europe as well. So I came illegally through the Balkan road to Germany, crossing Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, and etc., going up to Germany. I came into Berlin. My brother was already here, and he had already rented a room in a German family house who hosted me as well and helped me and gave me an opportunity to go to a gymnasium as well. And I did my, a gymnasium as well. And I did my Mittelschulabschluss in Germany, in Berlin. And then afterwards, I got the opportunity to attend UWC Robert Bosch College in Freiburg through the Syrian National Committee. And yeah, now I'm here.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for sharing your story, and we can only imagine the hardships you had to endure to get here. So it's wonderful to welcome you here this evening. Also, of course, big welcome to Elizabeth Kakugimba, ladies and gentlemen. She's here. Elizabeth, please get up so we can. Elizabeth, you are a first-year student from South Sudan. Tell us how you made the journey from South Sudan all the way then to become a student at the United World College.
Okay, so I'm Elizabeth Gimba from South Sudan. And growing up, I have been born and raised in Kenya because of the perpetual crisis happening in South Sudan. The war has always been, since my grandfather's time, my father's time, my time, it's still ongoing. So we could not sustain to live there, and we had to move. So I came to Kenya, and through the Kenyan National Committee and South Sudanese National Committee, came to the United World Colleges, Freiburg, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now, wonderful stories, and they really, as you declined in your speech, also, Mr. Huber, you set the face, and also what you say, you know, these are human beings. It's not just it's not an abstract notion. Here we have three very accomplished, highly intelligent individuals who made their way to Germany, and also, of course, welcome here to their rector, Lawrence Nodder is here with us. Lawrence, wonderful to have you with us. Now, tell us briefly about the work of the United World Colleges. What makes it so unique?
What the United World Colleges do is we bring together a diversity of people, what we call a deliberate diversity, people who under normal circumstances wouldn't have the opportunity of living and learning together. And through that process, all sorts of things happen, including that people discover the humanity, what Vartan was speaking about. We discover that every one of us in South Africa, we'd say, is just a person. We discover our common humanity, and we discover a sense of optimism and what we can achieve together in the world.
It's wonderful. Now, how are they behaving?
I don't know. I think superbly. That, yes.
A lecturer who doesn't know how their students are behaving. Okay, I did not hear that. Now, before I get back on stage and round this up, I have a wonderful story here, very unique. Please get up. This young man here is with us, Basel Al-Younes. Please give him a hand. He is with us here this morning. Now, Basel, it's almost too good to be true. When Aurora told me about your story, so you were a refugee from Syria.
I'm from Damascus.
Damascus, coming all the way here to Germany. Now, along the way, is my understanding, there was a film crew. There was a film crew during your journey as a refugee and filmed you and interviewed you and talked to you about your aspirations and your dreams. And one of the things you said is, I want to work for Ernst & Young. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? That's where he works now, Ernst & Young.
That's right.
Tell us, this is really a wonderful story.
That was incredible for me. So the last day in 2015, I met a television team and asked me for a short interview and asked me what your wishes for 2016. And directly, without thinking, I told them that I wish to work for Ernst & Young. And after 1 month,
that seems like a strange wish, you know.
Yeah,
it's like you're in the middle of the road.
So that's the same,
you know,
from the interviewer.
Guess what? Ernst & Young. That's what I mean. That's strange.
Before Ernst & Young, I told the interviewer I want to work for EY, and asked me what is for EY, and I told him that's Ernst & Young. It's a financial industry here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after 1 month, after a lot of searching from the EY teams. So I got a telephone from advisory teams and invited me to the EY, and I started as an intern, and now I worked as full-time with Ernst & Young. I worked as auditor, and yeah, and as Mr. Fayyan said, so I changed, and I still change, and I will change from 0 to hero.
Wow. Yeah. Wonderful. You couldn't make this stuff up if you wanted to. Really wonderful story, Basel. I believe you brought some of your colleagues with you from Ernst & Young, looking very proud at you. As a matter of fact, give him a raise. Give this man a raise. This is, yeah, the advertising, the ad he's made for Ernst & Young today is, you know this as a consulting firm. This is, this cannot be put in money. Great job, you know. I get my share later, but that's a different, that's a great story. Wonderful to have you here. Now, really, these are the stories, no, Vartan? I mean, these are the stories that touch our hearts.
Absolutely. One of the things recently, I spoke to an event honoring Aga Khan, 60 years of his leadership. And I don't know what prompted me to say, and I'm sorry because sometimes I say things I regret later. So I told the audience of almost 1,000 people in Hall of Dandur in the Metropolitan Museum, Ali Veshi interviewed me. So I said, when I was in elementary school in Tabriz, Iran, my elementary school teacher, Mr. Behdad, was not well educated, but was very smart, very intelligent person. Wise person, I should say. He said, when you see a donkey carrying gold, don't say it's a golden donkey. It's a donkey carrying gold. When you see a donkey carrying a diploma, don't say it's an educated donkey. It's only a donkey carrying a diploma. And when you see a donkey in a holy city, don't say it's a holy donkey. It's only a donkey in a holy city. I don't know why I uttered those words, because I think without character, all the things are ephemeral. And the courage of this young man, courage of the three, which I met some of them also in Dilijan, including I was pleased to see Turkish students studying in Armenia. Unheard of in the past, unheard of. Arab students, European students, because one of the wisdom of international college is the fact that natives can only constitute 10%. That's why you stress diversity of all at a place, which is very wise in many ways. So you don't have defensive because you're an international in true sense. So two pieces of advice already was prompted by the young man's statement. When my students, I've taught all the years, say, what do I do when opportunity knocks? I say, get a door first. If you don't have door, you won't hear a knock. Number two. Second is, don't be afraid of anything, because you're being tested by circumstances, by history and others. And also, in many ways, your destiny and mine is, that's why I'm happy and proud. Had I known all the difficulties, I would not have embarked the road I went. But everything compels you, especially literature. And I always ask people to read. Books don't need chargers. Electricity fails, you can still read the book. Books are companions. They never complain. They always are there when you need them. And I have a bag of Erasmus, quoted, that whenever money I save, I buy books. So I was a rich person as a little boy because I traveled all over the world, Germany and all over, through literature. I was never isolated. In a sense, my main plea is, which I mentioned before, don't be a prisoner of the present. Try to transcend it and try to defy it. Try to assert your humanity. And you'll be happy to see how many responses are there. They're right there.
Absolutely.
We celebrate them because they're the future of mankind.
They certainly have transcended it indeed. And before we wrap up, Jamila, now, please, by all means. Now, before we wrap up, and you heard these young gentlemen and women here, wise beyond their years and having gone through having to endure grave hardship, many of which we can't imagine. You can, of course, having been through it yourself. What, if any, advice would you give to these young men and women?
Of course, I can see a very good future for these young guys. And also, I can expect good for the world through their leadership in future. Because in my own personal story, that I was in a very hardship environment, but I was nurtured, I was grown up in the way that I could be a leader in my society. And I have done many difficult projects in Afghanistan for the rights of Afghan women, which sometimes is really difficult to think about it, that is possible. So we, with all the hardship, with little resources, with little opportunities we could do. And I think we have been in Dilijan University and we have witnessed that what an exemplary environment they have for their students. And they are producing future's leader. Those leaders that will not carry the intention of war, killing and conflict, but those leaders with the intention of love, peace, and humanity. And that is the key success for our world, to think as a for humanity, and we must act as a global citizen for each other.
Thank you. This is... And also, Maggie, same question to you, of course. I mean, you have dealt with young people all your life. You have helped them. You have supported them. You still do to this day. Do you have some words for the young ones here, who have come from very far to us in Germany and try to make their marks?
I want to tell you, you are our richness. You are our future. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because if you want, you can become the new generation who will change our word. Because when I began, I was only 24 years old. And my family asked me, what? You imagine an African woman, a young woman, when I decide to adopt children, Hutu and Tutsi, my family said, you don't want to marry? And you don't want to become a nun? And you have no money? And you want to be a shame for our family? But now, 40 years after, I can say to you, don't be afraid. Stand up and disturb. I don't know the words in English, but you must learn 4 words. Verb, déranger, surprendre, étonner et émerveiller. With all those 4 words, you will change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Vartan, before we wrap this up and gather in a more festive and communicative setting, before we wrap up the first day of the 2, what are the expectations? What are your expectations of the dialogues here in Berlin? I mean, today I think we kicked it off with very strong, important, and relevant messages, great role models both on and off stage. What would you like to see come out of these 2 days?
Well, I don't know about German experience as much in the United States. I'm very afraid people are spending more time with the machine walking around, not looking at each other, not seeing each other, not talking each other, not being with each other, but on the way absorbed with a gadget. And this gadget, I call it, let me show you.
Yes, of course.
iPhone. And I always tell people, this is iPhone.
I think people know.
Oh, you know.
Yeah.
Entire Greek literature is here. But you have to read it. If you don't read it, you're in storage. If you don't read it, you're in the storage business, not in knowledge business. All right? I have it here. I can do it. So I always encourage people to talk to each other, to have dialogue. Dialogue of this is not important as much as dialogue of everybody with each other or their family even. I go places, people are watching television. Well, you spend time talking, learning, knowing each other. And that's one of the things, unfortunately, for me, unfortunately, I see in the age of science, technology has become more important than science because application is more important, usage has become more important. I don't want us to be a nation of consumers only because we're spiritual human beings full of dreams and desires and others. We're socioeconomic, not just socioeconomic beings, but also moral beings with dilemmas and so forth. It's such a richness human beings are. From Renaissance on when popes and others who wrote essay on man. What a marvelous thing man is that God has created or nature has created. I don't care who created, but marvelous people. So I tell everybody, dialogue is essential on one-on-one, 2, conversation, so forth. Don't be intellectual isolationists, social isolationists, because out of this come alienation, out of this come desperation. So get connected and so forth. Last word I should tell in this connection, I did it in Dilijan. I say the universe is not going to be somebody like you in its entire history of creation. The 23 chromosomes are only unique for you. There's no 2 people identical in every aspect. So if that's the case, try to be, you'd have choice to be a dot, a letter, a word, a sentence, a paragraph, a page, a chapter, even a book or multi-volume book, or else blank. What a terrible thing will be that you're born in this wonderful uniqueness that you have, and you die as copy. Somebody said we're born originals, but we all become copies. Just be original, and the marvelous way you discover your humanity, because humanity is considered a garden. There's not one flower. Garden is full of other kind of flowers. So don't be just fixed on one flower. You develop the garden, love everything, and then you can take care of one flower only. But in the meantime, get to know humanity. Don't fall victim of centrism, whatever centrism is, by withdrawing from everyone in order to accomplish your goals. That's my other advice to students. That's for you.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think I speak for all here in the room that certainly we have seen three heroes of humanity, modern-day saviors, exemplifying through the deeds and certainly also the very wise and important words that you have shared with us this evening. Wonderful to have had you here on stage. Jamili Afghani, Margarita Barankidze, and Vartan Gregorian, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. No. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that more or less wraps up the first part of the Aurora Dialogues Berlin. Of course, a jam-packed program awaits you tomorrow with many more inspiring individuals. In the meantime, thank you again to Mr. Bosch for hosting us. Of course, thanks. Let's give him another round of applause. Thanks for hosting us here. And Nubar Afeyan for kicking us off in a very energetic manner. Wolfgang Huber, of course, for sharing your wise words. And the one wisdom that I took with me, Vartan, was forget about the iPhones. It's all about conversations, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to have conversations in the following reception. It's been wonderful to host the first day, and thank you for your attention, and look forward to the...
correction. I'm not a hero. They're the heroes. We talk about heroes. I'm not a hero.
Well, I see the fight is already on about who's the hero and who's not. We'll settle this at the reception, I promise. Thank you for your attention.